Dennis, I was hoping you might be able to tell me a little bit about your professional career.
Well, certainly this firm's been running since 1995. Before that, I've been in Canberra since 1975, so quite a few years doing other things, but always in the law. And big firms, small firms, legal aid, worked everywhere. But for the last 30 odd years in private practice and specialising in this work.
As one of the founders of the company, I believe you're still quite hands-on with a lot of the clients.
Oh, certainly. My work hasn't changed from what it's been throughout my career, which is running cases, advising people. I do a lot of my own court work as counsel in my cases, and I find that keeps me sharp and at the cutting edge of what the law's about in this area.
And it must be satisfying for you personally that a lot of clients particularly want to see you, and a lot of that business comes from referral of other clients.
Yeah, well, a very wise man who's now a judge, was a former partner of mine, said you get 90% of your work from 20% of your clients, and generally that comes by way of referral from satisfied customers, and that's really the way it works out. My longevity in the law in Canberra has led me to be pretty well known around the traps as somebody you go to when you've got a family law problem. So I get a lot of that work from referrals from former clients and other lawyers as well.
With over 30 years in family law, you would have seen quite an evolution in the whole world of family law over that time, Dennis.
It certainly has changed, and it's changed in a way that, like most of the law and probably life in general, it's more complex. The problems that you're dealing with now are generally more complicated. Certainly people's financial structures and even the common garden case will often involve a self-managed super fund and a family trust and various complexities of asset holdings, which means that we're not talking about simple matters and simple fact situations anymore. Most of the work I do is involved in financial disputes between ex-partners or wives and husbands, and it necessitates a fairly complicated understanding of complicated areas of law like corporations law, trusts, the law of evidence, and general commercial matters.
Dennis, a commonly held belief in the community that you don't really need a lawyer for family law, it's all fairly straightforward. How do you respond to that?
Well, certainly as one of the other hats I wear being on the Law Council of Australia's family law executive, I've never been anything of any opinion other than that the more reform we get, the more complicated the law becomes. To try and target what are supposedly problem areas, legislation really just creates more complexity and takes a lot of the ability to handle disputes and sort out their affairs away from the hands of the private self-representing person, and more and more they need the expert advice of a specialist family lawyer.
When you talk about those issues and financial issues or whatever else, are you suggesting that it's inevitably a path that's going to end up in court and that it's going to be a protracted and expensive legal process? Is that the only way, or is there another way to look at family law, Dennis?
Firstly, I'd say, Greg, that no, 95% of cases don't go to the judge, don't get to the stage where he takes it or she takes the decision out of the hands of the parties. So settlements are the most common way that matters are resolved, but settlements can happen usually at a very early stage if people sit across the coffee table and work out what they want to do, and that's something that we try to encourage people to do. More often settlements happen when people, having had the benefit of legal advice, then go through a mediation process, a collaborative law process as our firm has pioneered in Australia, or else sometimes a meeting with the lawyers present to thrash out an agreement, and that's often where most settlements that I'm involved in occur. There's no one size fits all in this area, but certainly we try and give people the knowledge and understanding of the legal aspects of their situation so that they can, if they're confident enough to do that, work it out with their ex-partner for themselves. One of the other things I did when I was President of Relationships Australia was establish the Canberra Mediation Service, which now is one of the most successful mediation services run by Relationships Australia in this country. And we refer a lot of our clients there, having given them advice, and they come back and say, we've reached agreement and now put it in a legally binding form. And certainly that's a very gratifying and fulfilling result as far as I'm concerned, as well as the parties.
In essence, you still respect if people want the relationship, if there's children involved and whatever else, they want an outcome that people can live comfortably with. That's not disagreeable to you, Dennis?
Absolutely. And Greg, it's not my practice to encourage people to go to court, but they don't pay you to soft soap the outcome for them. You give the advice, you give them the options, you give them the alternatives, you try and steer people towards a result that not only fulfills their legal entitlements, but perhaps enables them to have an ongoing relationship with their ex-partner, which is usually necessary, especially if there are children, and so that they can get on with their lives and feel comfortable with the things that happened surrounding their separation and the legal formalities. People who insist on having a dispute, we're there to assist them, but having given them the right advice.
Dennis, we've spoken about the financial and the legal elements of family law. How important to you is that your clients can maintain a respectful and reasonable relationship through the whole process, I guess particularly when kids are involved in it?
Yeah, certainly, Greg, that's what we aim to achieve. Obviously, people come to us with problems, sometimes in an emotional state, and bearing in mind it's due to a relationship breakdown. Obviously there is unhappiness as part of the spectrum that we have to deal with. But for most, if not all of our clients, the best result is one which enables them to continue to have an ongoing relationship with their ex-partner, to be able to communicate with each other about kids. Sometimes they have commercial interests or business interests or property interests that can't simply be severed and go their separate ways, and the ability to be able to talk to each other is something that I value as something I should be trying to help them preserve. It's not always possible, but quite often we're able to achieve results that enable people to continue to be civil to each other, even if they can't live together anymore.
I was going to ask you to just look back over your professional career, your background, whatever, but something relevant to what we were just talking about is that you've been very involved in establishing Relationships Australia here in Canberra.
I was President of Relationships Australia, and prior to that a Vice President for many years, and during my time as President we established a mediation service which is very successful. I've also been President of the Law Society, I've been President of the Legal Aid Commission for 5 years, and maintained an interest in counselling and mediation as well as legal aid issues over the whole of my career, really, because I started in legal aid back in '75 when Lionel Murphy kicked it off. I've also been for the last 12 years the executive member of the Law Council's Family Law Committee, which meets 4 times a year. In that capacity I've appeared before Senate committees and Senate inquiries. I've made submissions, attended meetings with the Attorney General and his officers, and kept at the forefront of changes to the law. A few of the changes to the law have happened at my instigation, and I'm quietly proud of that too. But it all enables me to bring a fairly detailed knowledge of what the Family Law Act and the courts are all about in this area, and hopefully that benefits my clients.
Very nice that you can do all of that and yet still have space, and I say this in the most genuine sense, to be here in the office and still seeing clients, many of whom it's a long relationship you've been involved with, Dennis.
I decided some time ago that I was not going to seek a judicial appointment, that you've got to go to work every day if you're a judge, and you're booked up for 12 months in advance, so I'm quite comfortable with what I do, and I enjoy it, and can't see myself stopping for quite a while to come.
Can I ask you, still taking on new clients personally?
Absolutely. Every day, virtually, I've got a new client to see. I try and delegate the running of matters as much as possible to minimise the expense for the client, because frankly my cost is higher than most of the other lawyers who work here. But I maintain overall supervision of all my cases, and I think that works pretty well.
In a general sense, in family law, is it fair to say that you get what you pay for to a certain extent, Dennis?
It's just amazing to me to see the not only people who try and act for themselves and botch it up, but frankly non-specialist lawyers who do a poor job for their clients. It's the adage that you don't repair your own car and you shouldn't run your own family law case. Certainly not without taking some advice. So a lot of our clients are able to handle aspects of their own matter, but based on the advice we've given them. But if you're going to end up in court, or if you are in a court case, then you've got a fool for a client if you act for yourself. It's an old legal adage, and I think it's pretty true.
I think the fact of the matter too is that not every case can avoid going to court, Dennis.
No, it's inevitable. There are some cases that are just hard decisions that judges acknowledge are very difficult to make. People, for example, who want to move away from Canberra for family circumstance, remarriage, and inevitably want to take their children with them, and those are almost insoluble where both parents want to maintain their relationship. So interestingly enough, Canberra seems to be the focus for a lot of those sort of disputes. We call them relocation disputes. Superannuation is at the forefront of many of our cases in Canberra. We have a lot of expertise in that area, and the intricacies of the law and the complexity of it now is really beyond most lay people to be able to understand. So a lot of cases end up in court despite the desire of everybody involved to try and resolve it, because it's very hard to predict an outcome in some cases.
I guess it's a journey that all of us plan not to take, but unfortunately many of us do. I think if I had to take that journey, I'd feel comfortable with you guiding me along the way, Dennis.
Thanks very much, Greg.